Sir Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, well, Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, was also asked what she thinks about Keir Starmer's plan for the UK and France to work with Kyiv to stop the war. $120. Yeah, I'm just going to do a quick... Okay, I'm going to do a little run-through, first of all. Mo, I'm going to do a run-through of who's taking part today, first of all. I've got my list, because I won't remember them all. Oh, okay. That is... Yeah. I am, yes. Thank you. I think I've got it right anyway. Would you be happy with the question of why Slowly's here from Downing Street? Okay, fine. I've got another guest later. Well, let me just tell you who is going to be at this crucial meeting today. It's quite a list, which is why I've got it all in front of me, so I don't leave anyone out. Just to say, first of all, that we are expecting the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, to arrive at Downing Street a little later before heading to that meeting, which is taking place at Lancaster House. So there will be the leaders of Ukraine, France, Germany, Denmark, Italy, the Netherlands, Norway, Poland, Spain, Canada, Finland, Sweden, Czechia and Romania. The Turkish Foreign Minister will be there, the NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte will be there, and the Presidents of the European Commission and the European Council will be there. So it is a huge gathering, hosted, of course, by the UK Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer. Well, let's talk about what we've learned so far today and what everyone gathered there at Lancaster House will be hoping to get out of the day. Joining me now is the BBC's Rob Watson. Rob, good to have you with me. And what do you think, first of all, before we look at what Sir Keir Starmer said, these leaders gathering in London today will be hoping to achieve?
Well, what Downing Street hopes they could do, and there's now an additional thing they need to do first, which is to try and calm things down between Ukraine and the United States. So that's an additional task. But I mean, essentially, why the UK was holding this summit, three things. Number one, to try and continue, make sure that Ukraine continues to get military support, increase the economic pressure on Russia, make sure that any deal that's done is a good one, and then thirdly and crucially, this is where Sir Keir Starmer is going to be doing some strong arming states and Europeans. Yeah, we always talk a great game on Ukraine, but if there is going to be the need for some kind of force on the ground, people need to kind of come up to the plate.
Yeah, and you make the point quite correctly that this meeting was always planned, and if we think back to what has happened this week, it's been an intense diplomatic activity. President Macron on Monday, Sir Keir Starmer on Thursday. Those days in the Oval Office with President Trump went very well. The mood music was very good, and then came that extraordinary meeting with President Zelensky on Friday. And I think everyone's seen and heard about what happened there. So in terms of patching up the relationship, do you think that is going to be a priority for them, patching up that relationship with America and Ukraine?
Well, it's certainly the first order of play, right? This was not what they were supposed to be doing this Sunday. They were hoping that Macron and Starmer's visits to Washington would have sort of got all that bit out of the way. That would have got the United States as they wanted to see it, still engaged with Ukraine on Ukraine's side in favour of doing a sensible deal. So in some sort of ways, they're further back.
Yeah, they're not far forward.
Exactly, they're further back than they were. And so, yeah, the first order of play is to, first of all, is for Keir Starmer to persuade the other European leaders to be on the same page as him. And that is to say, tempting as it might be to say, my goodness, what was Donald Trump thinking of? The UK doesn't want some sort of European pylon trashing President Trump. He wants them to agree, look, we may have to bite our lips, but given how incredibly important it is to have the United States on board, let's do that. Let's try and patch things up with Ukraine and
And how much then of today will be about that plan B I referred to, i.e. what they do if they can't catch up that relationship?
Yeah, sorry, I think I didn't answer your plan B question properly at the start, Anita. I mean, I think what I detect from speaking to officials is that at the moment they are just so focused on plan A, and you can't overemphasize this. I mean, the whole tone of Sir Keir Starmer's interview with our colleague Laura Koonsberg, it's all about trying to keep their eye on the prize, as they would see it, and that is no matter how difficult Donald Trump is as a person to deal with or to like or whatever, we need the United States, not just on Ukraine, but that traditional alliance that existed since 1945. So they are massively invested in Plan A, and they don't want to get to Plan B, with the idea of Europe supporting Ukraine without the might of the United States behind it. I mean, they just don't want to go there. Would they, if they had to? Who knows?
Okay, well, I hope we'll talk some more in a little while. For the moment, thank you very much. Well, I'm joined now by Andriy Zagorodnyuk, who is a distinguished fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center and the former Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Really good to have you with us on BBC News today on what is a huge, huge day for Ukraine, for the rest of the world as well, frankly. And I wonder, listening to the conversation, hopefully you were able to hear what Rob Watson and I were discussing. How much does Ukraine want that American backstop at the moment after the events that we saw in the Oval Office on Friday between President Trump and President Zelensky? And how likely is it at this point that you think the relationship can be repaired? Obviously, after that meeting, we saw President Zelensky on social media thanking President Trump. We saw him thanking Congress and indeed the American people. And Donald Trump has said all along that he wants this minerals deal with Ukraine. So on that basis, do you think it can be repaired? Andriy, unfortunately, apologies, we have lost our guest. Hopefully we'll try to get back to Andriy Zagorodnyuk. But right now I'm joined by Maria Zolkina, who is Head of Regional Security and Conflict Studies at Democratic Initiatives Foundation. She joins us now, Maria. Good to have you with us on BBC News as well. Just take stock of what you've heard from Sir Keir Starmer, the UK Prime Minister, today. He is saying that there are three key issues to sort out now: a strong Ukraine, to fight on if necessary, or to be in a strong position to negotiate, a European element with security guarantees, and thirdly, a US backstop. Take us through your thoughts on those areas. Do you think that anything can come out of this summit today that would be strong enough to persuade President Trump that Europe is doing more, is going further in its own defense, in the defense of Ukraine, that might alter his approach and make him more amenable to providing some kind of backstop? So you are hopeful of a strong statement coming out of this summit today in London. And one of those in attendance is the Turkish Foreign Minister. I just wonder if you would have a thought for us on the role of Turkey here, because Turkey has supplied Ukraine with drones. It has the second biggest army of the NATO members. So could Turkey potentially play more of a role? Maria Zolkina, thank you very much for joining us on BBC News today and for your thoughts on today's story. Well, I'm pleased to say we've got our comms re-established with Andriy Zorobrodny, who is a distinguished fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Centre and the former Minister of Defence of Ukraine. Good to have you back with us, and I think when we lost the line, I was just asking you about whether you thought that there could be a repairing of the relationship between President Zelensky and President Trump, between Ukraine and the US, effectively following that meeting in the Oval Office on Friday. So Keir Starmer, UK Prime Minister, said earlier today that one of the elements that they would be looking at in this summit is a strong Ukraine to fight on if necessary. What will be the challenges to that, and how well placed do you think Ukraine is right now to do that, to fight on if necessary? Okay, Andriy Zagorodnyuk, thank you very much for joining us on BBC News today. And of course, we are here in Downing Street, the door number 10. Behind us, we'll be keeping a very close eye on all the developments at Lancaster House, a very short distance from here where that summit is taking place. Rob is still with me. We've got about a minute, Rob.
European unity and that approach to Donald Trump. The Europeans agree with Keir Starmer to need to lower the temperature. Unity in the idea of continuing to back Ukraine all the way in terms of defence support. And insistence that any deal is one that is not some kind of a surrender to Russia. And of course, signs that the Europeans have prepared not as the UK wants it to just talk a warm and a big game, but to commit in some way or another, at least in principle, to the idea of resourcing some kind of a peacekeeping force on the ground if a deal can be struck. So look at essentially the unity.
And yet that's an interesting concept, isn't it, unity, when on the one hand you've got US, and then here in London today you have got multiple countries, multiple states, who probably all have, slight variations. They broadly, obviously, are together on supporting Ukraine, but some may be more minded to work with the US than others. Others may be more independently minded. It's coming together with a strong statement at the end of today in support of Ukraine, and let's see where that takes the discussion with the United States. We will be here all day following that. Do stay with us on BBC News. Thank you. I think it's the hands that are going to be suffering. I have got some gloves as well, actually, but we'll be okay.
I'm not until 11, not until 8 minutes past 11. So. Oh yeah, sure.
Yes.
I'm here. The next commitment isn't until 8 minutes past 11.
Okay. 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 Okay, fine. Perfect. Going into a long shot of Keir Starmer. Yeah, there's a 13-minute shot and then a 3-minute shot, so it's after that, yeah. But I don't know if he does know. Ellen. So it's a 13-minute shot of Starmer and then a 3-minute shot of Labour. And then they got brought back up to Labour. Okay, thank you, James. Was that all okay at your end, front half? Oh, yes, apart from that, yeah. We got him back, which was good. Will do.
No? Maybe I haven't called you. My mistake, sorry. Okay.
So it's Ukraine, France, Germany, Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Spain, Turkey, Czechia, Romania. No, that's that's NATO secretary.
Yeah, okay. Fine, how are you?
This is BBC News. Welcome back to Downing Street here in London. The headlines for you. So Keir Starmer tells the BBC he will work on a peace deal with France and present it to the United States to try to end the war in Ukraine.
You've got the keys. Yeah. Okay, cool. See you later.
Later here in London, he'll host a summit with European leaders and Canada on how best to secure the future of Ukraine. And these are live pictures from Downing Street, where we are expecting some leaders to talk to the Prime Minister before going into that summit. President Zelensky will also meet King Charles later today. The Italian leader Giorgia Meloni expected here fairly soon, in the next hour or so, to meet Sir Keir Starmer, part of this huge day of diplomacy, a really crucial day. We saw President Macron of France and Sir Keir Starmer visit the White House, have those discussions in the Oval Office with President Trump earlier in the week. Really warm encounters, I think most people would agree, very friendly. And then came that meeting between President Zelensky and President Trump on Friday, which really did not go well for Ukraine, did not go well for the United States. And so we're left here today with this summit, which was planned before all of those meetings in the White House. But on their agenda now, they have this issue of how to repair the relationship between President Zelensky and President Trump, between Ukraine and the US, before they get on to other substantive points. They were hoping, obviously, to make more progress on what they can do to come up with a deal to bring an end to the war in Ukraine, also to look at what we're calling the Plan B. What happens if they don't get the cooperation, the security guarantees, that security backstop from the US that certainly the UK Prime Minister believes is essential, certainly President Zelensky believes is essential. Well, we heard a little bit more about Sir Keir Starmer's thinking earlier today when he was speaking to the BBC's Laura Kuenssberg, and he was asked, first of all, for his reaction to what happened in the Oval Office on Friday between Presidents Trump and Zelensky. I shall stick my hands in my pockets then.
Hiya, how you doing? Nice to see you. Well, no, but I'd be on the live camera. Where's the live camera?
I was just checking, is that
Yeah, you don't need to.
that's fine.
I've also got some perfect.
Hey there.
I went to watch Richard Jones yesterday afternoon, Paul. Yeah, because I was like, it's been so intense and horrific, the whole thing.
Okay.
I need to go and have a watch. And I've got a large glass of Chardonnay.
Is it on the WhatsApp group? Would you give it to George if he can put it on the WhatsApp group? That's okay.
Yeah, it was really good, but I think it might suit my frame of
Yeah.
mind. I needed to sort of, I needed to just go to another world where all this isn't happening. Do you know what I mean? Yes. You know what I mean? Just something like that. Yeah, honestly, for the press conference, I had this question about being an unreliable story, like why should they watch Chelsea type thing. And then I was like, oh, it feels a bit sus and that. I should get to ask him. So I was like, oh, because, you know, like, it's so pleasant.
Great. Oh, do you manage to take any pictures yet? I was just going to put it tonight.
It's just actually you don't. Yeah. Anyway, I probably should put some ears on. I'll be bumping off anyway, 6. Get the spot back.
Hello, gallery. So I think rather than bring in these comments, I should probably go into the maiden upshot and then do the comments off the back, yeah?
I think
because otherwise it breaks up the flow of what we do. It breaks up the flow of what we're doing here.
They were being so precise about packing it and not fucking up. I think he was in meeting, he was doing hours of preparation in the morning, and I just think that and I don't know if you watched him on Laura this morning, but he was so careful about what he said. Do you know? Well, he gave a lot of detail on the newsline he wanted to get out, which is we're now going to work together. Huh? What do you want? Yeah, but that. Well, basically the Europeans aren't prepared to put a peacekeeping force in without US backstops, and the US is not prepared to put backstop in without them stepping up defence left. So his job is to try and I'm on a stick, Mike. Can you hear me? I wasn't behind it. Okay, do you want me on I need to be on a lapel mic. And also, is that camera pointing up, and does that give me a double check?
And I'll just get rid of that.
I need a lapel mic. Hi, Uni, I need a lapel mic. Huh? No, I just need. Okay. Alright. Hi, love.
Good, thank you.
Thank
Is
you.
that pointing upwards? Or does it give me a double chin? Actually, it does give me a double chin. I don't want.
You're asking the wrong person about.
It's like a daisy.
Hello, lovely man. How are you? Thank you. Welcome back. Huh? There was chaos, wasn't there?
Shut me out.
Does that look weird? We happy with that?
A lot, isn't it? Do you notice I'm wearing very bright colours again?
That wasn't me, I didn't touch it.
That is a good teal, by the way.
I know, well, I need to get Macron to pop over for a chat.
Yeah, we've got Digi and BTS stuff to do, so...
You've got so much stuff.
New pocket.
Huh? Can I have some food, Finn? Can you pass me something now? What have we got?
We've got sandwiches,
I might need a sandwich.
crisps, popcorn.
I might have a sandwich. I haven't eaten yet. Well, which one do you want? I don't know, what do you think? What would you have out of those? Yeah, chicken. Can you pass me my... Oh no, I've got... Can you pass me my stool? Can you just bring me my stool? I'll put my stool there. Thank you. Matt Barbette wants to know what Putin is sitting thinking in the Kremlin.
Ellie, did you get any clarity on that phone call with the Baltic states?
What's the shout?
Read out now. We'll read out.
No,
Can you get it back on track? Have you spoken to Trump? Don't know. I think they should just get me up live and get me chatting now, because they've got loads of talking heads on, and I actually... Why don't you just get them to get me to chat into it a bit more?
Yeah, Ben, so you're live at the end of this hour, and then from the top, Rob me into it. Yeah, that's
Are you producing? Are you the film producer today? Yeah. I think Trump a reliable ally is nice. Can you trust Trump? Can you trust Trump? Do you need to step up your security defence? I'll just do loads. I didn't feel there was enough shouting yesterday at Zelensky. No, I've just turned them off. Let's talk about the grids. I'll take them out. Yeah, we can do. Do you want me to do that? Yeah.
So Keir Starmer speaking on Sunday with Laura Boozberg, and also speaking to Laura was Kerry Bainlock, the Conservative leader, who was asked what she thinks about Keir Starmer's plan in the UK and France to work with Kyiv to stop the war. Okay. Great. I'll bring in that line from Tusk. Tusk. Ellen, do you have something, have you been sent something on John Swinney, presumably at the state visit? We already knew what they were saying.
I personally think, what else did I talk about? On what things? Feed to the wild.
Yeah, just keep me right on timings. I'm just going to do the Tusk statement first of all.
Do you want to do this thing? Why are you standing that far away from me? Like the 12-minute, like, no, we're fine.
Yep. So how long would it be if you dropped the master sequence?
It's
2 minutes. It's up to you. Okay, 15 seconds. Presumably it's okay, we made it up there. Let me just bring in a statement we had from Donald Tusk, the Polish Prime Minister, just before he set off to travel to London for this Ukraine summit. And he says he is urging European leaders to reinforce NATO's eastern flank. Here's the quote: "It will be a real test of the intentions and the capabilities of each European state to have more European troops present in Finland, the Baltic states and Poland on the border with Russia and Belarus." So Mr. Tusk also says he supports the proposal from the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, who's due here in Downing Street very soon, to convene a summit of European leaders and the United States. Well, let's discuss those latest comments with BBC's Rob Watson, joining me again here on Downing Street. And I mentioned to what nations, different states, who will each have their own demands within that kind of overall aim of seeing what they can do to
yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Different levels of
Unless you want to.
different capabilities.
But
absolutely right.
I haven't got a
this summit
pocket
is
hold.
Keir Starmer and others
Are we on a break, Matt?
There is going to be
Yeah, we're on a break, love.
and if it is going to be Europeans, a coalition that are willing on the ground in Ukraine, what is it that you are prepared to give? And I guess we may have a bit more of a sense of that by the end of October. Not, but we may. But I think you've highlighted an interesting point earlier, Anita, which I think maybe I didn't pick up on properly enough, and that is that there are varying degrees of differing views in Europe about how to deal with Donald Trump and the United States' future place in the security of Europe, not just in the Ukraine crisis. One end of the spectrum, countries like the United Kingdom, we heard that clearly from Keir Starmer, and Italy, who absolutely
that's absolutely fine.
Want to keep the United States engaged
Well,
not just with Europe, but continue to believe that alliance between the US and Europe is vital to security. And others in Europe that we've heard, things like the German Foreign Minister and others, who are a little bit more thinking, do you know what, maybe the United States is not going to stand by us and we are going to have to do more, not just on Ukraine, but actually for our security overall. So, if you like, subtle differences on where we are in terms of this crisis, this Euro-Atlantic crisis.
And this relationship can be with the US can be very quickly more to extend that balancing act between being a neutral and being allied with other countries in Europe and being allied with the US.
It does, and I think one has to emphasise that it's not just the UK, but the majority of European leaders, they just don't want to get to it.
Yes, that's right. Prime Minister Meloni of Italy, a close Trump
very
ally.
much. Yes, so here in Downing Street we are expecting Giorgia Meloni, the Italian Prime Minister, to arrive fairly soon ahead of that summit with many leaders from around Europe.
We'll be moving
and
to
we
Lancaster
here at
House,
BBC
the
News will
Grand
be keeping you
State
right up to
building
date with all
in the
all of the
centre
developments. So do
of
stay
London,
with
where
us for
some
that. Right
intense
now it's time to
diplomacy
look at
will
the
kick
weather
off
with
with
Louise.
18 European leaders coming to that summit as the Europeans try and work out what a security plan for Ukraine might look like, and they tried to pick up the pieces that got broken so badly in the White House on Friday with those astonishing exchanges between President Trump and Zelensky. Look, at the nuts and bolts of it, I'm told by government sources that they do think they can get things back on track. Someone has said to me there will be more ups and downs ahead. We must keep our eyes on the prize. So there will be negotiations with the European about increased defence spending and what can they do with Trump and Zelensky, all still to play for.
After the summit.
I had another one earlier that I also didn't put into the system. I will be shouting at Bloney. Sorry, I'm going to put it into the system now. Sorry about that. I sometimes forget to do that.
Yeah, I won't wait for a queue. I'll just take my own queue down, yeah?
That implies
Hi Rachel, hi there.
Guys,
I do.
Am I going to be in vision? How are we doing it? Am I out of vision or in vision? No, but I'm just, when I'm doing a two-way, just so I know. About defence spending and stuff, about the Europeans. Yeah, what he actually said about they need to. You said it to me earlier. Yeah, that stuff. Could you send it to me because I missed that bit and it's quite nice colour. Thank you.
Live from London, this is BBC News. So Keir Starmer tells the BBC he will work on a peace deal with France and present it to the US to try to end the war in Ukraine. These are live pictures from Downing Street, where we will be through the day. We're expecting leaders to arrive here to talk to the Prime Minister, including the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. Later, he will host a summit with European leaders and Canada on how best to secure the future of Ukraine. President Zelensky will also meet with King Charles later. The other main story today, Israel stops all humanitarian aid from entering Gaza because of a disagreement about a US proposal to extend the first phase of the ceasefire. Hamas condemns the move as cheap blackmail.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome to central London. I'm Anita McVeigh. I'm in Downing Street, where in the next few minutes we are anticipating the arrival of the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni. She spoke to President Trump yesterday ahead of today's crucial summit here in London, and she is calling for an immediate US-European summit, in addition to this summit, to try to iron out the issues that could lead to a peace agreement and bring an end to the war in Ukraine. Well, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in the UK. You may have seen him yesterday being greeted by Sir Keir Starmer here in Downing Street, and he will be attending that European Leaders Summit, which is taking place later on in Lancaster House, not very far away from here at all. The Turkish Foreign Minister is also in attendance, the NATO Secretary General, and the Presidents of the European Commission and the European Council will also attend. And earlier today, the Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer spoke to the BBC live on Sunday with Laura Kuenssberg, and he was asked for his reaction to what happened in the Oval Office on Friday with President Donald Trump and President
Thursday,
Volodymyr Zelensky. Let's have a listen.
Ukraine in negotiations with the US to sign this minerals deal, which President Trump wanted, and Zelensky said he was prepared to offer, and President Trump saying that this would really grease the wheels, if you like, in terms of the relationship between the US and Ukraine, and also kind of putting the US front and centre of these peace negotiations, and then it all just blew up before our very eyes on Friday, with Zelensky ejected from the White House after being berated in the Oval Office by the President and his Vice President J.D. Vance, and it has left European allies reeling over the past 48 hours. There has been frantic diplomacy led by our Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. He had a call with Zelensky and President Trump after the White House blow-up. Zelensky here yesterday, another call with President Trump on Saturday afternoon, as well as with President Macron. There have been no readouts from Downing Street on what has been going on. All of this diplomacy behind closed doors, and what has been clearly very tense and unpredictable. But the Prime Minister on the BBC this morning, doing an interview ahead of this big summit, said that he had agreed with France and one or two other possible European countries that they would work with Ukraine on a plan to stop the fighting. They would discuss that plan then with the United States. So the Prime Minister said he wanted to be a bridge. Now really stepping up, it will be he with Macron and maybe a couple of others, maybe Prime Minister Meloni, who will come up with a plan to put to Donald Trump as they try to get this thing back on track. But speaking to government sources this morning, one person says they do think they can get things back on track. They told me there will be more ups and downs ahead, but we must keep our eyes on the prize. Another government source tells me that they were working yesterday to get President Zelensky back to the table and do that deal, that minerals deal. We think it's the right thing to do. Today is about getting European leaders to go beyond Twitter rhetoric and step up on defence spending, and also prepare now for a world with no US security guarantee for Europe, not just Ukraine. So there has to be a plan B. And look, at the heart of this, the Prime Minister will be demanding for more European security defence spending. There was a reason that he brought forward and scrambled together that commitment to lift defence spending ahead of the meeting with President Trump in the White House. President Trump has consistently said NATO allies need to up their defence spending. So the Prime Minister saying 2.5% of GDP on defence by 2027. He will be calling very clearly for European leaders to step up. Quite simply, at the heart of this deal, there will be no US security guarantees without increased defence spending commitments from the EU, and there will be no EU peacekeeping force, or European rather peacekeeping force in Ukraine without a US security guarantee. So this is really chicken and egg, and it is falling on the Prime Minister alongside President Macron to try and patch this thing up, get the show back on the road. So it really is a critical meeting today of European allies.
Okay, I'll just bring in a couple of lines before I... Okay, I'll just bring in a couple of lines before I do that.
I think the thing about what's going on between Keir Starmer and President Trump, so we're just waiting for Prime Minister Malone, a bit of movement behind me. I think what's really going on here is, and you saw it in the atmospherics of how Keir Starmer approached questions about, was he shocked to see what he saw in the White House? You know, being called on really to call out President Trump. He's just not going to do that. He kept saying, no one wants to see this. Of course, it made me uncomfortable. And then he kept reverting to, I just want to get this back on track. I want to approach. The main thing is lasting peace. He said that he trusted President Trump. Look, he just does not want to get into words and criticism because he knows that it will potentially destabilise things again. The thing about President Trump going into that White House meeting that Keir Starmer understood because he prepped so well by all the Sherpas, the officials going back and forth, is Trump really deals in castle relationships. It matters to him. He's not so big on detail, he's on how he relates and interacts with someone. And Keir Starmer understood that well, and the way he handled himself in those meetings. He said very bitterly in the Oval Office, he let Donald Trump take the floor. He tried to flatter him. He gave him the invite for a summit of Charles. He understood that there was a way of trying to do a deal with President Trump, and he played his cards well. I think what happened with Zelensky was after quite a sustained period where it seemed to go well. Things were said by the Vice President, Zelensky reacted, Trump blew up, and suddenly all of that carefully orchestrated diplomacy carried out by European allies appeared to unravel. And I think what's happening now is the Prime Minister's trying to get it back on track. But look, in the Oval Office on Thursday, President Trump could not have been more charming or polite to our Prime Minister, and he was very positive about President Zelensky. He said things have got
over recent weeks. I want to take you back to Friday, first of all. It's been a really busy week diplomatically. But that meeting in the Oval Office on Friday between Donald Trump and Volodymyr Zelensky and your
saying it. So he was, in his mind, in his presentation, at least when we were there, it felt like this was carefully orchestrated to get to the point today where European allies would have come forward and said that they would spend more on defence, but in the moment, in the emotion, it just blew up in a way that I am sure President Zelensky did not want to happen. And the thing about people talking about whether it was orchestrated or not, in a way, if President Trump comes back to the table, then they can get it back on track. That's what number 10 at least says in Britain. When you talk to people around Keir Starmer about how do they handle President Trump, they
do you think it was planned? Do you think it was planned? It was intentional?
Many people out there have been really upset by the way Zelensky was treated. He's a wartime leader. You saw the compare and contrast how the Prime Minister dealt with Zelensky when he came to the street and embraced the Prime Minister, walked down the street. He had him into number 10, and it was a show of strength, if you like. But really what they care about is getting this back on track and dealing with Donald Trump. Because like it or not, at the moment, in terms of peacekeeping forces, the whether or not the Europeans want to turn their back on Trump or Zelensky wants to turn his back on Trump, at the moment they're simply too fought. There is a bigger, longer-term question about how reliable a partner the US is under a Trump White House.
Yeah, Keir Starmer saying he doesn't want to get caught up in the outrage. He wants to get on with coming up with a plan. But when this summit in London today was first set up, they were hoping that the meetings between Keir Starmer and the French President, Emmanuel Macron, also in Washington this week, would really lay the groundwork for what they were doing here in London today. However, they now, in addition to what they had hoped to achieve, have got to also work out how to repair that US-UK relationship to a certain extent as well. I'm just looking to see if it's actually Larry the cat rather than anyone watching. Not familiar, Larry the Downing Street cat, not to any sign of George Maloney, the Italian Prime Minister arriving. So just on that point, Kim Darren, where or how do the people gathered here to start to think about repairing that relationship?
When we were in Washington and we were talking to people in Washington, the thing that I took away from some of the discussions I had behind the scenes was there will not be US security guarantees for Ukraine without Europeans doing their bit. But President Trump has told NATO allies that he wants to spend 5% of GDP on defence. Currently the US spends 3.4% of GDP on defence, and the question here is whether or not others will step up like the UK Prime Minister has, and he will be tough on that. You saw a flick of this in the interviews he was doing this morning when he said it's not about people talking the talk, it's not about going on to Twitter to show support for Zelensky, it's about hard power, that is money. And he said earlier today, I think the UK and France are the most advanced in thinking on this, and that's why President Macron and I are going to be working on the plan which they then discuss with the US. But they are committed
someone I spoke to recently said what we are looking at
their
now
defence
is,
spend. And I think
from the US perspective,
which
is
other
respect
allies
for a strength-based international order rather than a
at the end of this
rules-based
summit
international
that the
order.
Europeans
Would you
are
agree
able
with that? And if
to
so,
see other
then
countries make some
how
sort of
do you
commitment
think the
that they
US
can
will
put up as a movement to President Trump? I think there's also another question here about the UK, because the Prime Minister has, of course, agreed to increase our defence spend to 2.5% of GDP by 2027, and he said that he will then raise it to 3% post-2030 should he win another general election. Of course, it's up to voters to decide whether they want to give him a second term, but there will be pressure on whether or not they have to bring that forward. And I think the point about the optics of the White House on Friday was it reaffirmed to European leaders that Trump is potentially a very unreliable ally. So even if they can get some short-term deal across the line of support from Trump on peacekeeping in Ukraine, the emergence of a more isolationist, transactional, strong power Trump in the White House, where he has clearly said, or allowed his allies to, that European security is not his focus. He is looking to China. That is where the US is really interested in terms of their own foreign policy. It's a message to the Europeans. You cannot rely on the relationships that have governed our international relations and approach to foreign policy for the past 70, 80 years. And so there's a much bigger question here about how Europe responds. Look, after
on point two, you mentioned there, do you think Donald Trump can be persuaded to agree to that security,
in defence because they didn't think they needed to. They
before the
invested
deal is
money,
signed? Because at the moment he is
money
saying
into
there has to be a deal,
education,
and
into
then he'll
welfare,
think about,
health
then he'll look
spending.
at
And now
what
there's
sort
this
of
moment
security guarantees
where everything
the
has
US
changed,
might
and that's
be
the
able
Prime
to
Minister's
provide.
words,
But if
not
he was doing
mine.
a deal,
And
presumably
defence
he'd want to know
spending
what
now
he was
has to
getting
be a core
before
of
he agreed to
European
it.
budgets,
So do you
because
think
they
the US can be
cannot, the words
persuaded
of Trump, how
to
easy
do
is
that
it,
first, to
bankrolled
state
by the
clearly
US
what
when it
those
comes
security
to their
guarantees
national
will be
security? So
if,
it's a
for
much,
example,
much
as you
bigger
suggested,
discussion,
it could help
but I
with
think what the
intelligence
Prime Minister
gathering.
will be looking for today, and I'm sure that it's somehow choreographed, is some commitments on defence spending from fellow NATO allies. I think the element of this that we haven't spoken about much at the moment is about how confident is Trump that Putin
In terms
will
of
actually come to the
sequencing,
table.
if,
What really
as
struck me at
Poland's
the
Prime
press
Minister
conference with
Donald
the Prime
Tusk
Minister on
was
Thursday
suggesting
in the East Room of
he
the White
hoped to
House
get out of this
was when
meeting
Trump
today,
said
and
this
that
deal
would be
will happen
a
very
promise
quickly
of
or
more
not at
European
all. And as
troops
the Europeans
on the
and the
borders
US
of Russia
talk
and
amongst
Belarus
themselves
in areas
about
like the
security
Baltic states
guarantees for
and so
Ukraine or
forth.
anything steel
If that was
or
to be
what
put
they
into
can or
place,
not
do you think it would be more
provide,
likely
what
that
Trump
Donald
is
Trump would
trying to
say,
do is
you
get
know,
Putin to
yes, we can
the
move
table.
on these security
And what I think
guarantees?
is sort of not said much but might be going on behind the scenes is that Trump needs Putin to come to the table. And so maybe he is equivocating a bit on Zelensky in Ukraine because he needs to get. He said he's going to secure peace deal. He's put his reputation, he's staked his reputation on that. And what if President Putin doesn't come to the table? And I think that, in a way, some of the behaviour of Trump in the White House on Friday might be a reflection of a sense that maybe President Putin isn't locked into this. And as you said, how can other allies behind the scene try and influence Putin or discuss it with him? Because what Trump was making a point about last week in his negotiations was no one had spoken to President Putin, and actually it was he that called President Putin. European allies don't much like that, but actually to end this war, there has to be a negotiation.
Well, just a final
with
thought from
President
you, Darren, if I may,
and
before
Trump has been working
you
to
go.
try to get him
Looking ahead to today then,
the
what
table.
would you be looking to see coming out
And that is a
of this
question about
security
what's in
summit
the
by
minds
way
of
of
the Russians.
a
They
joint
might see
statement?
this disintegration between Zelensky and Trump as a way of strengthening them on the battlefield, as a disincentive to come and negotiate, and then it will be up to other allies to try and make Greece those wills, but that is very uncertain. I think what is more certain, we can be more certain about, is the Europeans at least are trying to work out what they can do on their side in order to try and have a ceasefire after 3 years of conflict.
Well, you speak from a lot of experience, and we will wait and see how the day unfolds. Thank you very much, Lord Kildarren, for your time today. Just glancing down the gates of Downing Street, you can see some Ukrainian flags flying beyond the gates, and we are waiting for the arrival of the Italian Prime Minister.
Well, I think
we
Prime
think
Minister has had a
any
number of
time now, but
meetings
let me just take you back to an
allies.
interview I did in the last
former
hour when we
German
spoke to
Chancellor
Maria Zakina, head of regional security and conflict studies
to
at the
Czechos. And I
Democratic
can't
Unionist
remember
This is
when
what she
she
said to
last
me
saw
about today.
Meloni one-on-one. She's one of the biggest European partners, one of the biggest powers in Europe. So he is meeting her ahead of this meeting. Can it be that these two particular European leaders who have a good relationship with President Trump, a strong relationship with President Trump, what can she do to help? It was interesting, there were reports of Meloni having appeared with President Trump in the last couple of weeks. Her argument to him was President Putin is no more President Xi of China is, but not Putin. I think they're coming in, so I'm going to duck out.
Meloni is about to come in, right? I think, yeah?
So Prime Minister Meloni, and you saw, what happens is the press will run in, because they're now going to do the fireside chat, and we usually get some words from the top of that meeting, and then this is Prime Minister Meloni's entourage in Lego, and I'm sure I saw someone there with military uniform. So what does that tell us? This is a big summit for the Prime Minister. If you just step back for a moment, this is a Prime Minister leading a country that left the European Union in Brexit, and now he finds himself at the heart of these negotiations. The deal making, if you like, between European countries, in which the UK for a few years was sidelined from the talks, but this unique position that the UK has as the bridge between the US and the UK, particularly with a Trump White House, was effective under President Biden, who would often go to Germany and France over the UK, but this is a White House that doesn't much like the European Union. It's threatening tariffs in the European Union. It doesn't particularly favour the NATO alliance, the security alliance of European countries and Canada as well. And the Prime Minister finds himself in this position where he really is becoming, alongside President Macron, the person that is trying to find common ground between the European Union and the US. So it is a critical day. And it is quite, if you stop for a moment and think about it, normally it is the US that lead these types of negotiations. And now we find ourselves with the Prime Minister saying this morning that he and President Macron, alongside one or two others, will be putting together a peace plan for Ukraine that they then put to the US. Now, just step back for a moment and think about foreign policy for decades. That is not how business has been done between allies over many years of successive White Houses, and that really reflects the gear change that we now have with President Trump in the White House as the Europeans step up and try to take the lead and try to persuade Donald Trump to come in behind them rather than lead them when it comes to foreign policy and defence.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, in the first instance, it's how do you keep the US engaged, and then you have all of us wondering, well, what do they do if they can't come back to Donald Trump wants to do a deal with Putin? It's not acceptable to damage to others.
Okay, we will be looking for lots of signals throughout the day as we hear more from that summit, and we will keep you right up to date here on BBC News, so do stay with us through the day from Downing Street. Do stay with us.
Yeah, but the difference here is when it's Italy first or America first is that this is a Russian aggressor on the borders of Europe. And what no European leader wants is for this war to spill out beyond where it already is. And there is a difference there because, as Zelensky himself said to President Trump on Friday in the White House, there is a sea between the US and Europe. When it comes to European leaders, there is but a border, and there is Russian aggression, Russia invading a sovereign nation, nervousness from other European partners, and Meloni and other European leaders, they now have to work out how they deal with not just the Ukraine problem, but a problem for the whole of the European continent. And so Meloni will have to decide the extent to which she will step up. What we already have, what we know, is that certainly France and the UK are prepared to put troops on the ground in any peace deal to police the border between Ukraine and Russia. And I think the questions today will be to what extent can European countries commit to increase defence spend, but also what might that army of European troops look like, because they can't be European Union and they certainly can't be NATO troops. That would provoke Putin more. But European countries individually, now is the moment where they do need to step up, and that's what the Prime Minister will be pressing them on today.
Oh, I need to get in those. Yeah.
I've asked them to make it on this.
Just breakfast. I haven't done it. Oh, thanks.
Yeah, I'm just
He went and got food this morning. I couldn't do it done with coffee. Didn't have coffee.
of travel, but we know primarily that they do want the US, of course, to be involved in some sort of security guarantees or backstops for Ukraine. They believe that is the best way to ensure, in the words of Sir Keir Starmer earlier today, that Russia doesn't come again, doesn't try to take more territory in Europe. Well, we saw Sir Keir Starmer appear on Sunday with Laura Kuenssberg earlier. On that same programme, Kemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, was asked what she thinks about Sir Keir Starmer's plan for the UK and France to work with Kyiv to stop the war. Rob is here, yes. Okay. Okay. Wonderful. Okay. Yeah. I'm also keen just to, if someone can pull me up the latest comments from Carl Bills. Just, okay. Oh no, that's okay. That wasn't for you. Thank you. No, it's fine. Thanks, Rachel. Oh, 30 seconds. Ross, okay? Will you wave to me, Ellen, at the 7th time that I need to... Kemi Badenoch. Well, joining me again is BBC's Rob Watson, who's been with me here at Downing Street over the last couple of hours. Rob, I'm just looking at some comments from the Russian perspective. Some of these are also the level, some of the comments and one thing that sort of stands out is where they talk about how the US administration foreign policy figures coincide with the Russian vision, quote, to a large extent. And of course, that is a question that all the leaders of summit in London will have to tackle today.
Well, the first thing to say, Anisha, is that it's just astonishing, right? I mean, that the Russian spokesman would be saying that after everything that's happened these last 3 years, where, for example, under President Biden, the United States was four square behind the Ukrainians and was constantly describing this as entirely Russia's fault. This was an illegal invasion and you end the war by Russia accepting that, and indeed that has taken the view that some of the Russians involved may be guilty of war crimes. I mean, it is, I just say it because just to emphasise the astonishing turnaround in events, and what the Europeans here are struggling with, which is, do they fundamentally see the war in Ukraine, both its causes and how you end it in a different way?
And we haven't heard a great deal from Dr. about why he takes that position. It's certainly been asked. It was asked in the overall press conference during the week, why do you trust President Putin? And he's really answered that question.
No, although I watched all of those Oval Office events very, very closely. And there was perhaps one moment where we had a bit of a clue. And that's where, like I said, it went back beyond President Putin, the cause of this war. And what I understood from what the President said, just that sort of phrase that we're going back that far, is that he may be one of those who buys into the Russian argument, that is, everything that we're seeing now as a result after the end of the Cold War, that the West pushed up too close to Russia, pushed up too close in terms of countries like the Baltics joining NATO, the European Union pushing up to Russia's borders now. Most people would say that is, a lot of people in the West would say this is crazy, right? The EU, NATO is not a threat to Russia in the way that Russia says it is, given by and large the European Union was one of the great furthermores of history. But it was really fascinating that President Trump had gone back that far, suggesting he has some sympathy for that Russian viewpoint, that it was all about the West encroaching in our space.
And is this American first isolation of views as well that we're seeing very much because it keeps talking about America being far away from what's happening in Ukraine, what's happening in Europe, about that, because of the phrase uses that great big beautiful ocean between us. Do you think there are any people around him, you said, I'm quite honest with Washington, do you think there are any people around him who are saying, actually, this does matter to the US, because if things get worse here, if President Putin does try to come again and return to Europe, that will affect the US too?
It's a fascinating question. I mean, previously people had said that maybe Secretary of State Rubio was one of those who still, if you like, harbored that traditional US view of the world, which was shared by Republicans and Democrats alike, which is, we have to maximise our power by strengthening and preserving our traditional alliances, so with the Europeans, with the Japanese. But I mean, if you think about what's happened since that extraordinary bust-up in the Oval Office on Friday, I mean, most of those close to Donald Trump and around him have backed him all the way. But it's interesting the point that you raise. I mean, Donald Trump in many ways goes back to a time before the Second World War. There was a strong streak of isolationism in the United States. That we don't need to be involved in these places with that kind of mystifying, terrible, brutal conflicts. We can be apart from that. We have an ocean.
And I think when you will have listened to many of those White House press conferences as well, when questions have been put to the press secretary about the situation with regards to Ukraine, we keep hearing her say, apparently we keep hearing her say that the president promised that he will end this war and that he's going to save the American people money. And that is a big part of the bottom line for the US, saving money.
Well, it's certainly in terms of the way Donald Trump sees the world, part of his political goals, right? I mean, as you said, I went through the campaign saying, if I'd been president in the first place, this war would never have happened, but if I am elected president, I'm going to stop it. And he always cites two reasons. One is stopping of bloodshed on both sides, but also about the loss of US economic treasure, such as military security. How that will continue to play out in the United States, what polling is saying, and how that's going down with the American people. So I think what they tend to suggest is that it breaks down partisan lines, that a lot of people that voted Republican will actually think, yeah, good on you, Mr. President, let's get out of Ukraine, let's get out of all these commitments. Whereas those who voted on the Democrat side are all to America's place.
Thank you very much. Well, George Maloney is still inside the number 10 Downing Street talking to Sir Keir Starmer. A little while ago, we also heard from Andriy Zagorodnyuk, distinguished fellow at the Atlantic Council's Eurasia Center and the former Minister of Defense of Ukraine. Okay.
Downside risks.
Well, they're asking me something to say for a final for this half hour. Pick up.
Yeah.
It is, yes. Okay.
Oh, which boss is that?
Gareth Beck.
Good group.
Okay. Yeah. haven't got that. Yeah, I haven't seen that. It hasn't been sent to me on the WhatsApp group or anything. So there's a very strong. Read it back to me again, Rachel. Sorry. Okay, lovely. All right, thank you. So just on the local side, it's very important to avoid the risk of the West dividing. So it's done that, don't we?
Yeah.
Which leads us on to the general theme of the CGTN.
Yeah. So it's just as I thought. So US support for Ukraine. Overall, 30% of American adults say the US is providing too much support to Ukraine.
Andriy Zagorodnyuk there talking to me a little earlier with me here still in Downing Street, Rob Watson, and we're just hearing in the last few moments a line from Georgia Maloney, who's inside at number 10 there with the Keir Starmer, Rob saying it's really important to avoid the risk that the West divides and as we were discussing earlier about that, when you talk about the West, there are lots of different regions there.
Yes, but I think it's absolutely true that most European leaders profoundly regret what happened on Friday, that astonishing muster between Donald Trump and President Zelensky, between the two presidents. So I don't think there's any disagreement amongst Europeans that was most unfortunate, and that any divisions among the West only help President Putin as they would see it. But the challenge they would face is, okay, clearly they're prepared to bite their lips in dealing with Donald Trump. He may not be the president that many of them would have chosen, and they find that his manner of behaving is awkward for many of them. But I think the question is, no matter how much unity and no matter how much spirit of compromise they are willing to show, a lot of it comes down to what does Donald Trump really want, right? Does he want to continue, as Americans have done, to prioritize the relationship between the US and its continental European allies, including the UK, of course? Or is what's really driving President Putin a desire to have improved relations with Russia? That is more important. And to that extent, there wouldn't be much that the Europeans could do, but I mean, what's really important, what's really interesting is that Prime Minister Maloney and Prime Minister Starmer, they're obviously very keen to hope on hope that actually you can restore unity in the West. That is their very goal.
Okay, Rob, thank you very much. Well, let's speak now to Fraser Nelson, columnist at the Times and former editor of The Spectator. Fraser, good to have you with us. Let's just take up a couple of the points I was discussing there with Rob. And on that statement, that brief snippet that we heard from Georgia Maloney, it's really important to avoid the risk of the West dividing over all of this. To what extent do you think that is a risk?
The summit, she also called herself a bridge builder as well. That's something that Keir Starmer called himself this morning. Clearly they both think they're in a unique position to be a conduit between Donald Trump and European counterparts. Georgia Maloney hinted to closeness with the US administration. But Downing Street today told me that they don't want this summit to just be about words. They said declarations, strong, warm words have already been given. They really want to see actions today. So they'll be looking at security.
And how much of that do you think is driven, it was a question that Rob was posing a moment ago, driven by Donald Trump's desire to have a better relationship with Vladimir Putin, with Russia?
Encouraging other European leaders to do that. The UK had big defence spending last week, GDP, 2.5% of GDP in 2027. So that's something we will be pushing. Other European leaders today, Georgia Maloney said that there should be no fractions within Europe, that all have a common goal for achieving peace.
What do you think the European leaders gathering here in London today need to come up with? Obviously, they're a little bit further back than they hope to be because of events in the Oval Office on Friday, but they've got to, look at trying to repair the relationship with the US and see how they can move forward productively. They've also got to think about a plan B, don't they, as well? Fraser. Okay, Fraser, we are out of time, but thank you very much for joining us on BBC News. Fraser Nelson there, and of course we will be doing our best to find out what is going on behind the scenes at that European summit today. So do stay with us for all of that on BBC News. Thank you, Rachel. Oh, this is interesting. Poland.
So it's the same thing. So I sent you the one ASP that you had. Cheers, thank you.
Hi there, just give me 1 second, please.
What's that? show that the tourism industry should really deliver management and diplomacy with Russia. And that was like really on display in terms of Europe. There's an unprepared US and after the Oval Office was that. And on Europe, it says that a deep strategic rethinking is unavoidable, but what that looks like just remains to be seen.
Okay.
No simple answers, but there's like no way back to it. No simple answers, but like no way back to it.
No, I think it comes out. Okay, thank you, Jade. Okay. Okay. Can I get on the WhatsApp chat? Let me just see if it's there. The list. I need the list on the WhatsApp chat as well, please, so I can see what's coming up. That'd be very helpful.
We have Carl first.
Yeah. Or whichever way around, whoever's there.
Yes, for me. Yeah. Sure, me throw to it and then pick up the bag. Cool. Sure.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Sir Keir Starmer tells the BBC he will work with France on a Ukraine peace deal and present it to the United States. In the last hour, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni arrives in Downing Street to meet Sir Keir Starmer before this afternoon's Leaders' Summit. In the coming hours, President Zelensky will also meet King Charles. Hello, I'm Anita McVeigh. Welcome back to Downing Street and to the programme. And of course, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is in the UK. We saw him here in Downing Street yesterday being warmly greeted by Sir Keir Starmer, and he is going to be one of the leaders attending today's European Leaders Summit here in London, a very short distance from where we are in Downing Street. That is due to start in around 2 hours' time. Others attending will include the Turkish Foreign Minister. Remember, Turkey, as a NATO member, has the second largest army in NATO. It already supplies drones to Ukraine. What more could Turkey do by way, potentially, of contributing to a solution? The NATO Secretary General, Mark Rutte, will be there, as well as the Presidents of the European Commission and the European Council also in attendance. As we mentioned in the headlines, the Italian Prime Minister, Giorgia Meloni, has already come here to Downing Street to meet Sir Keir Starmer. She spoke to Donald Trump yesterday. She has called for an immediate European-US summit. And Mr. Starmer told Ms. Meloni they approached the issue of the war in Ukraine with a very similar mindset. Ms. Meloni said it's very important to talk to each other. And looking ahead to the summit, she said, we are all very committed about a goal that we all want to achieve, which is a just and lasting peace in Ukraine. That's a phrase you hear a lot from the political leaders here in Europe, isn't it? A just peace. She said, I think it is very, very important that we avoid the risk that the West divides. I think on this, the UK and Italy can play an important role in bridge building. Well, earlier today, Sir Keir Starmer spoke to the BBC live on Sunday with Laura Kuenssberg programme. He was asked for his reaction to that extraordinary meeting in the Oval Office on Friday between President Trump and President Zelensky. Okay. Are we doing the Badenoch shot first?
Yeah, exactly. Bridge building was something that Keir Starmer himself actually said this morning. They both see themselves as this conduit between Donald Trump's administration and European leaders. But Keir Starmer today has placed himself at the centre of these global discussions about Ukraine's future, convening this special defence summit here with 16 other European leaders. Now, obviously, this is all thrown into doubt, all these conversations, because of that Oval Office meeting on Friday with Zelensky and Donald Trump, that Keir Starmer said today that no one wanted to see that. He was watching in Downing Street when it was happening. He said he took to the phones. That was his response, trying to forge diplomatic ties, and that's what we will see a bit later on, to try and get back to the central purpose, he says, of a lasting peace. Now, peace will come through a deal, shaping the contours of that will have to come out today. But we did get a bit of a roadmap of where Starmer wants discussions to go today. This is what he said in an interview earlier this morning.
Start stamping my feet now, because otherwise I'm going to lose all the feeling.
Yeah, exactly. Now you've got Keir Starmer right in the middle of this. As he said, he called Donald Trump yesterday after he met with President Zelensky. President Zelensky is meeting the king today at Sandringham, so trying to balance the same offer that was extended in the White House when Keir Starmer pulled out that letter from the king inviting Donald Trump to the palace. So clearly trying to balance both on either side. But an interesting thing that came out this morning also was this strange phrase that Keir Starmer used today, saying that there would be a coalition of the willing. That would be the basis of the deal. He's suggesting somehow that perhaps it wasn't all
Hemi Badenoch, the Conservative leader, was also asked what she thinks about Keir Starmer's plan for the UK and France to work with Kyiv to try to stop the war.
Something to find out a bit later on.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Badenoch there. Well, let me just tell you that in a few minutes we're going to be joined by Alistair Campbell, formerly spokesman for UK Prime Minister Tony Blair and now podcast host. We'll be speaking to Alistair Campbell in just a few minutes here on BBC News. But before then, I'm joined now by the former Swedish Prime Minister, Carl Bildt. Mr. Bildt, thank you very much for joining me on the programme today. And I know that you have been highly critical of the way the US conducted that meeting in the Oval Office with President Zelensky on Friday. Just take us through your thoughts since then about what happened. Do you think in Europe countries have been fast enough to pivot to this new way of working, which is somewhat different to the rules-based international order that operated previously? Yet, Mr. Bill, sorry to interrupt, the Trump administration would say that President Trump was given a mandate by the American people to lead as he sees fit. Mr. Trump is making the point that the war in Ukraine is now in its 4th year, that Europe hasn't been able to bring an end to that war, and that he wants to try to do things differently. Do you think it is possible that his approach will actually lead to an end to this war sooner than might otherwise have happened? So for the leaders gathering in London today for this Ukraine summit, do you think a deep strategic rethink is required? We know that they want to also try to reach out to America to try to repair relations with America, to try to ensure that the US is involved in some sort of security guarantee going forward. But do you also think that alongside that, Europe needs a strategic rethink of how it does things? Carl Bildt, former Swedish Prime Minister. Really appreciate you joining us on BBC News today. Thank you very much for your time. And joining me now is Alistair Campbell, who was the Downing Street Director of Communications from 2000 to 2003. Also now host of the Rest Is Politics podcast with Rory Stewart. Thank you very much, Alistair, for joining us as well. I was watching your discussion with Rory Stewart late on Friday night, and obviously after what had happened in the Oval Office, and your reflections on that as well, because I think it's something that everyone is still wanting to discuss and to try to understand how that might inform what is happening today here in London. Yeah, and Keir Starmer earlier today when he spoke to the BBC wouldn't really be drawn specifically on commentary on all of that. He said he didn't want to add to the outrage, that his focus now is getting on with the plan. And I mean, European leaders here in London today, they still will want the US to be part of that plan, won't they? So strategically, how do you think they move forward then? Yeah, I mean, you will know well there are lots of big personalities in politics. I guess it's about getting beyond the personalities and the personal and getting to the practicalities. What do you think Donald Trump will be looking to see when he finds out what has gone on in this meeting that's due to take place in London today? I mean, one of the big things in terms of security guarantees he's been talking about in terms of the sequencing is that there has to be a deal, and then the US will think about what it might do. But if he was making a deal, I discussed this earlier with one of my other guests, he would want to know what he was getting first. So in terms of the sequencing, what do you think might happen there?
Just phone one. What would you like to do? Yeah, but it says it feels like the department needed, so we're doing it. Yeah, so, yeah, but